Before any word becomes sound, before any desire dares to speak its name, there is a hush that precedes creation. You are standing within it now. This work does not arrive to persuade you, nor to promise you anything the world can measure. It arrives as a remembering, a quiet unfolding, a return to a knowledge that once moved through temples without walls and was guarded not by locks, but by reverence. You have been taught to announce your dreams, to declare your hunger, to display your becoming. Yet the oldest wisdom never shouted. It breathed, it whispered, it waited. Power, in its purest form, has always favored the unseen. As you listen, you are not a reader, you are an initiate crossing a threshold. Each sentence is not information, but an alignment. Each pause is an invitation to soften your outer life so your inner wealth may speak. There is an ancient energy that lives beneath effort and beyond ambition. It was never meant to be traded, flaunted, or chased. It was meant to be kept warm in the chest, tended like an ember, protected from the winds of opinion and doubt. When honored in secrecy, it grows roots. When practiced in solitude, it multiplies without strain. You are not here to accumulate, you are here to attune. Let the noise of the world recede. Let the old urgency loosen its grip. Nothing in these pages requires force. Everything here responds to patience, devotion, and trust in the unseen processes of becoming. As you proceed, you will be asked to do less, speak less, reveal less, not as a denial of life, but as a refinement of it. The soil does not boast of the seed does not announce the tree, yet forests rise. Take a breath now, slow and unobserved. Feel how silence is not empty, but full. Feel how it listens back. This is not a book to be consumed, it is a chamber to enter, a rhythm to adopt, a sacred agreement between you and the invisible laws that have always known your name. Enter gently, walk quietly. What is meant for you will recognize you in stillness. In the beginning, there was a mistake made by those who came after the ancients. They believed wealth was something to be pursued outwardly. They mistook motion for power, volume for influence, exposure for worth. And so they grew loud, exhausted, and perpetually hungry. But you are here to learn what was never meant to be taught openly. True abundance does not respond to demand, it responds to resonance. The first law you must receive is this: whatever you speak too early loses its strength. Whatever you expose before it has roots becomes vulnerable to collapse. Prosperity in its sacred form is shy. It approaches only those who know how to be still. Consider the hidden spring beneath a mountain. It does not announce itself, it does not rush, yet entire valleys are fed by its quiet persistence. Those who dig too aggressively never find it. Those who listen to the land do. Your inner life is such a spring. The world has trained you to measure progress through evidence. This path asks you to measure through feeling, subtle shifts, a deepening calm, a sense of inevitability that requires no witness. There was once an alchemist who labored for decades without recognition. While others performed rituals in public halls, he worked alone, refining the same simple gesture each dawn. When asked why he hid his work, he replied, "Gold that hears applause begins to tarnish." He understood that attention is an energy. Wherever attention flows, interference follows. To protect a process, one must remove it from commentary. Your first practice is not action, but containment. Tonight, or at the next moment of privacy, sit alone without your devices, without symbols, without preparation. Place one hand over your heart and one over your lower abdomen. Breathe until your body settles into a slower rhythm. Then, without words, feel into the version of you who is already provided for. Do not imagine objects. There is a mirror you have avoided, not because it shows too much, but because it shows what has always been there. Not the mirror of glass, but the reflective field within you that repeats whatever identity you quietly agree to inhabit. The second principle of silent abundance is this: wealth responds not to desire, but to self-recognition. What you believe yourself to be in private becomes the law that governs what may approach you in form.
You have been taught that effort must be seen to be real, that labor requires witnesses, that progress demands proof. These beliefs belong to the outer world, where survival is negotiated through display, but abundance is governed by a different order. In the inner traditions, visible action was considered the weakest form of influence. It was noisy, inefficient, and easily corrupted by ego. The initiated learned instead how to act without being observed, how to shift reality from within the unseen chambers of intent. Invisible action begins where impulse ends. Notice how often you feel compelled to do something when uncertainty arises, to send a message, to announce a plan, to push a door before it is ready to open. This urgency is not intuition. It is discomfort seeking relief. Silence prosperity asks you to cultivate a different reflex, containment. There was once a gardener entrusted with a rare seed that bloomed only once every 100 years. While others asked when they would see it, he watered the soil without answer. He adjusted the light, he protected the ground, and he never spoke of the seed. When it finally bloomed, it required no explanation. Your life is such a garden. Invisible action is not inaction. It is precise, internal, and timed according to laws deeper than willpower. It includes the thoughts you refuse to indulge, the reactions you do not express, the explanations you withhold. Each restraint is a redirection of energy. Begin to notice where you leak force. Pay attention to how much vitality is spent narrating your intentions, defending your choices, or anticipating outcomes. Each time you speak prematurely, energy moves outward instead of downward, where roots form. The practice of this chapter is deceptively simple. Choose one desire you are currently holding, one that matters but is not yet visible. For the duration of a single lunar cycle, you will take no visible action toward it unless absolutely required by life. No announcements, no updates, no strategic conversations, no seeking validation. Instead, you will practice invisible alignment. Each morning, before engaging the world, sit in stillness and feel the end state of this desire as already resolved, not as excitement, but as normalcy. Let it feel unremarkable, ordinary, like a fact you no longer need to consider. Then, throughout the day, act only as necessary, not as reactive reinforcement. If doubt arises, you do not argue with it. You withdraw attention. Doubt starves without witnesses. In the evening, release the desire entirely. Do not rehearse it before sleep. Let the subconscious work unobserved. The soil does its best labor in darkness. This is how invisible action multiplies power. It removes interference. Ancient builders knew that structures aligned with natural forces required less material and lasted longer. They studied shadows, winds, and stars. They waited for the correct moments to lay the first stone. Rushing was considered sacrilege. So too with prosperity. When you stop interfering with your own becoming, alignment accelerates, coincidences increase, assistance appears without request. What feels like luck is simply energy unblocked. You may notice discomfort during this practice, a sense of doing nothing. This is the mind protesting its loss of control. Let it protest. You are not here to satisfy the mind. You are here to restore balance. Another aspect of invisible action is silent refusal. You are allowed to decline invitations, expectations, and obligations without explanation. Every unnecessary justification is an energetic transaction. When you say less, you retain more. Practice responding with simplicity. Fewer words, neutral tone, no elaboration. This is not avoidance, it is conservation. The Taoists spoke of Wu Wei, effortless action, not passivity, but action so aligned it appears invisible. Water does not announce its strength, yet it shapes mountains. As you refine this practice, you will begin to feel a quiet authority.
There is a sacred rhythm to giving that most never understand. Gifts, offerings, and acts of generosity are often measured by visibility, applause, or reciprocal return. But the fourth principle of silent abundance reveals a truth deeper than exchange. True prosperity grows through silent giving. The ancients knew that what is offered in secrecy multiplies in ways the mind cannot calculate. A coin placed into a hidden vessel, a blessing whispered into the wind, a resource shared without expectation. These are the seeds that the universe tends with devotion. Noise dilutes power, discretion concentrates it. Consider a parable from old manuscripts. A young monk traveled to a distant village carrying nothing but a small bundle of food. Each day he left a morsel on a doorstep, never revealing his identity. The villagers, puzzled, found their lives slowly transformed. Pantries never emptied, disputes resolved themselves, crops flourished. The monk did not claim credit, nor was he thanked. He did not tally impact or expect acknowledgement. His reward was invisible, yet complete. This is the principle you must now embody. It is not the magnitude of the act that matters, but the intentional withholding of the act from attention. The more unseen, the more energetic the effect. Begin with a ritual of silent giving. Choose something small but meaningful, a token, a thought, an act of service. Place it where only the recipient or the universe may witness. You do not announce it. You do not document it. You do not hope for recognition. Simply release it. As you release, focus inwardly on the feeling of abundance. Let your chest expand quietly. Notice how the act of giving, without expectation, feels like air flowing through a chamber previously closed. This is energy multiplying. This is the law at work. The principle applies to more than material acts. Silent giving can be expressed in attention, in listening without comment, in withholding judgment, or in offering time that leaves no footprint. Imagine your life as a network of rivers. Every private act of generosity feeds an underground aquifer, unseen yet sustaining everything above. A practical exercise. Over the course of 1 week, commit to performing 3 acts of silent giving each day. They may be as simple as sending an encouraging thought toward someone without telling them, paying a small debt or covering a bill anonymously, sharing a resource that you do not expect to reclaim. Each evening, record not the acts themselves, but the sensation you carry, the quiet expansion within. Notice the difference between the energy of generosity offered for attention and generosity offered in secrecy. The subtle alchemy of silent giving lies in its invisibility. When you give openly, the energy disperses, like light through a cracked window. When you give secretly, energy bends back towards you, forming an internal reservoir. Over time, this reservoir becomes the source of true, effortless abundance. Another meditation. Imagine a garden beneath the earth, roots intertwined and unseen. Each seed you plant here in silence represents a contribution to this subterranean ecosystem. No flower knows the hand that sowed it, no fruit boasts its origin, yet the entire garden thrives. You are both gardener and soil, giver and vessel. This principle also protects your wealth. Silent giving shields resources from envy, interference, and premature depletion. Abundance is strongest when it flows without announcement. By embracing discretion, you cultivate both prosperity and spiritual sovereignty. Remember, too, that giving is not limited to people. Energy itself can be offered. Your attention, your intention, your focus. When you hold a positive energy for a situation or a person without telling them, you are practicing the most refined form of silent action, pure, unseen influence. You may notice resistance. Part of you may ask, Will anyone know? Will this matter? Let the question pass. This is a test of trust. The act is its own reward. By withholding, you allow energy to find its own path. The universe. Time is not measured in hours, but in cycles. Seasons, moons, tides, and celestial rhythms move with precision beyond the grasp of hurried minds. The sixth principle of silent abundance is sacred timing. Knowing when to act, when to pause, and when to release is more powerful than action itself. The uninitiated force their will against the clock. They rush, they strain, they beg the world to align with their schedules. The result is fatigue, frustration, and opportunities missed. True prosperity does not respond to pressure. It responds to attunement. In ancient wisdom, there was a saying, "Strike the iron when it is red, not when it is cold." The blacksmith knows the metal itself dictates the moment, not the hands of the artisan. So it is with energy, intention, and abundance. Sacred timing begins with observation. You must learn to read the cycles around you, your own body, the flow of your energy, the natural world. Note when your clarity peaks, when inspiration arises, and when effort feels resisted. These are your personal rhythms, the invisible clockwork guiding your life. A practical ritual for cultivating sacred timing. Choose a desire or project you wish to manifest. Do not rush to act. Begin instead by creating a calendar of attunement. Observe the lunar phases. Intention is most potent at the new moon. Release is most complete at the full moon. Note your own energy levels throughout the day. Align action with moments of heightened focus or inspiration. Identify external conditions that favor your goal. Quiet periods, natural cycles, or situations that minimize resistance. Then, enter a state of deliberate waiting. Each day, perform a small alignment ritual, a visualization, meditation, or breathwork without attempting to force the outcome. Feel the timing of your intention as if it already exists, but leave the sequence of events to unfold unseen. An old tale tells of an initiate who planted a grove of fruit trees. He watered them carefully and tended the soil, but did not touch the saplings until the earth itself whispered readiness. When the first buds appeared, they flourished far beyond expectation. The world praised him for patience, but the true teacher was the rhythm of nature itself. Sacred timing also applies to speech, decisions, and gestures. Consider when to express ideas, when to withhold, and when to move silently toward your goal. Energy invested too early scatters. Energy invested too late misses the current. Alignment requires trust in the invisible flow. A meditation. Imagine your desire as a river. Do not push water against the banks. Instead, watch its course, feel its momentum, and step in at the precise moment when the current supports your movement. Acting too soon or too late creates resistance. Acting in resonance allows effortless progression. Incorporate a ritual of checking alignment daily. Before any decision or action, pause, close your eyes, and feel, is this the moment? Let intuition speak in sensation, not in noise. This cultivates a habit of sacred timing that becomes second nature over time. Another exercise. Select one small action each week and deliberately delay it until the moment feels right. Observe how the outcome differs when it is aligned with unseen rhythms versus forced by habit or impatience. Journaling this difference silently in your mind strengthens your sensitivity to timing. The mastery of sacred timing amplifies all previous principles. Mirror work becomes sharper, invisible action more potent, silent giving more fruitful, and solitude more resonant. When you move with the currents of life rather than against them, You conserve energy, magnify results, and protect your inner prosperity from wasteful friction. The subtle law is simple. The universe flows in cycles. Abundance flows to those who learn the rhythm. When you act with awareness of timing, you no longer chase, you no longer strain. There is a self within you that often goes unexamined, a presence that adopts the beliefs, limitations, and expectations of others without question. The seventh principle of silent abundance is assumed identity, the deliberate choice to inhabit the consciousness of the person who already possesses what you seek. Most people wait for circumstances to change before they feel worthy. They believe they must first acquire wealth, influence, or recognition before their inner state can reflect it. The ancients taught the opposite. Your external reality is a mirror of the self you choose to occupy in private. Change the self first, and the world will follow. Assumed identity is not deception, it is alignment. It is recognizing that the self you habitually carry may be smaller than your potential. By deliberately embodying the energy of your fulfilled state, you create a vibration that draws circumstances in accordance with it. Begin with quiet observation. Notice your current inner narrative. How do you speak to yourself about your worth, your capabilities, and your abundance? These private dialogues form the architecture of your reality. Most are unspoken, yet they govern every outcome. Next, choose the self you wish to inhabit, not as fantasy, but as possibility. Imagine yourself living with ease, confidence, and provision. Picture yourself responding to challenges with calm authority. Feel how it moves through your body. Posture, breath, subtle gestures, and the tone of inner thought. This is the person whose energy you will now adopt in private. A ritual for cultivating assumed identity. Each morning, spend 10 minutes in solitude. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. Mentally step into the version of you who has already attained your goals. Feel their certainty, their poise, their sense of sufficiency. Throughout the day, notice moments when your habitual self begins to speak or react. Pause and allow the assumed identity to take over silently. Respond as the fulfilled self would. Each evening, reflect quietly on the moments you maintained alignment and the moments you did not. Do not judge, observe, adjust. The alchemy here lies in repetition. The mind, untrained, will resist. Old self-concepts are stubborn, yet each act of inhabiting the higher self reinforces energetic pathways, gradually rewriting the template that governs your material life. Consider a parable. A hidden alchemist worked for decades in solitude, transmuting base metals into gold. He did not rush. Each day, he placed himself in the state of the perfected practitioner, performing small, precise gestures that reflected mastery. Over time, his inner state reshaped his outer reality. The gold he produced was not the reward, the internal transformation was. This practice works in tandem with all previous principles. Mirror work sharpens your perception of the self you already are. Invisible action prevents premature exposure of your assumed identity. Silent giving nurtures alignment by expanding energy without ego interference. Ritualized solitude creates the space where new identity can be safely tested and strengthened. Sacred timing ensures that the energy of this identity manifests precisely when conditions are ripe. A subtle exercise. Throughout the day, silently speak to yourself from the perspective of your assumed identity. For example, I move through opportunities effortlessly. Resources flow toward me without struggle. I respond with calm and confidence. These are not affirmations for the world to hear. They are vibrations you carry inwardly, shaping the unseen architecture of your reality. Over time, you will notice the world begins to respond differently. Situations that once felt resistant now yield with less effort. People and circumstances align with the energy you quietly embody. You are no longer waiting for life to validate your worth. You have assumed it in silence, and the universe mirrors your choice. Remember, the self you inhabit in private becomes the world you inhabit in form. To assume identity is to claim sovereignty over your own energetic landscape. There is a force in the world that multiplies quietly, unseen, and inexhaustible. It is neither labor nor luck, but the energy of intention, refined, focused, and protected. The eighth principle of silent abundance is energetic multiplication, the ability to amplify what you already hold without adding effort, exposure, or announcement. Most attempt to increase resources linearly, more hours, more effort, more explanation. They act as though energy behaves like a finite commodity, when in truth it can expand infinitely when properly concentrated. The ancients understood this. They knew how to transform a small kernel of potential into a vast harvest without noise. Energetic multiplication begins with recognition. Everything you hold, attention, intention, gratitude, or resource, is a seed. The more attention and refinement you give to that seed in private, the more it multiplies in subtle layers, unseen by the world. Begin with the simplest element, your attention. What you focus on expands. But here is the distinction. Focus in silence multiplies. Focus in performance dissipates. When your concentration is for effect, energy is drained by witnesses, judgments, and distraction. When your concentration is for alignment, energy grows exponentially. A ritual for practicing energetic multiplication. Select one intention, resource, or skill you wish to see expand. This could be financial, relational, creative, or personal. In solitude, visualize it as already multiplied, not in grand spectacle, but in quiet, internal fullness. Feel the sensation of expansion, warmth, lightness, or grounding energy in your chest, abdomen, or limbs. Without moving outwardly, send the energy through your being, imagining it permeating all layers of your life. See how it touches opportunities, relationships, and circumstances like roots of a hidden tree. At the end of each session, seal the energy silently. Do not speak of it, write it down, or attempt to control its manifestation. Trust the multiplication will continue unseen. Energetic multiplication is often reinforced by ritualized repetition. The ancients would perform small, precise rites daily, allowing energy to accumulate like water behind a dam. Over time, even minor efforts transformed into significant results. Another method, layered attention. Take one act you are already performing, writing, working, creating, and fold into it a silent intention for expansion. Do not announce it, do not adjust your external form, simply infuse it with awareness. Each repetition increases the energetic yield. A parable illustrates this. A hidden gardener planted a single rare seed in a remote plot. He tended it daily, speaking to it in silence, nourishing it with water and intention. Years later, the tree had produced fruit that fed not only the local village, but travelers from distant lands. The gardener never boasted, yet the impact multiplied far beyond his direct action. Energetic multiplication also applies to resources beyond physical matter. Knowledge, influence, and skill can expand when cultivated privately. For instance, studying quietly, practicing alone, or refining a craft in solitude can yield outcomes that appear miraculous when revealed because they were multiplied unseen over time. One subtle but powerful practice. Each night before sleep, Review the day in silence. Recall the moments of aligned focus, acts of giving, and manifestations of assumed identity. Mentally fold them together, imagining them resonating and expanding. This is a form of energetic compounding, the quiet work of accumulation without exertion. Remember, effort without alignment yields little. Alignment without publicity yields everything. Multiplication is the art of allowing energy to grow in private, then there is a subtle rhythm to life that most overlook, the weaving of spiritual practice into ordinary moments. The 10th principle of silent abundance is integrating prosperity rituals into daily routines, learning to make every action, no matter how mundane, a vessel for quiet alignment and unseen growth. Many seekers reserve spiritual practice for designated times, meditation in the morning, visualization at night, rituals on special days. While these are valuable, the ancients taught that true mastery comes when sacred practice flows seamlessly through the ordinary. Every step, breath, and gesture can carry the energy of abundance when performed with awareness. This principle begins with mindfulness, noticing the opportunities in daily life to act as a conduit for prosperity. Washing dishes, walking to work, arranging a space, or preparing a meal, all can be infused with ritual and intention. When done silently and deliberately, these acts become conduits for invisible energy, multiplying both internal alignment and external results. A daily integration ritual. Begin with one ordinary activity that you perform every day, pouring tea, sweeping, walking, or organizing. Before starting, pause and take a deep breath. Place attention fully on the action. Imagine the energy of abundance flowing through it, touching every corner of your life. Perform the activity with gentle care and presence. Notice sensations, patterns, and rhythm. Do not rush. Do not multitask. Let the act itself become a meditation. After completing it, take a moment to visualize the effect spreading silently. Opportunities, resources, relationships, or creative inspiration aligning in response to your presence. Release the visualization without attachment or expectation. Do not record or announce it. Let it exist in the unseen. Over time, this practice transforms ordinary routines into sacred rites. A simple cup of tea becomes a channel for energetic multiplication. A walk to the market becomes a ritual of assumed identity. Washing hands or tidying a room becomes an act of protection from doubt, of silent giving to yourself and the unseen field. Consider a parable. A monk, devoted to his monastery, swept the floors daily. He did so with full awareness, silently invoking the prosperity of the monastery and its inhabitants. Outsiders saw only a tidy temple, yet the hidden energy of his mindful work nourished generations of seekers and ensured the monastery's abundance without fanfare. The work was ordinary, but the consciousness behind it was extraordinary. Another exercise. Select 3 daily routines to ritualize. Infuse them with the energy of one previous principle: mirror work, invisible action, silent giving, or assumed identity. Perform them with consistent attention, observing subtle shifts in energy, perception, and life circumstances. Sacred integration also requires restraint. Avoid performing rituals for approval, recognition, or to accelerate outcomes prematurely. The potency comes from internal focus, repetition, and alignment, not external validation. Each act is a quiet amplifier, growing in resonance as it remains unseen. Energy accumulates naturally through repetition. The ancients compared it to a river carving a canyon over centuries. Small, consistent flows reshaped the landscape without spectacle. Similarly, integrating prosperity into daily life allows energy to accumulate invisibly, eventually producing profound and inevitable results. Daily reflection strengthens this integration. Before sleep, silently recall the moments when you performed your ordinary acts with awareness and intention. Imagine the energy you invested multiplying quietly. Feel gratitude inwardly, sealing the ritual. Do not record or reveal. Protect the process.